Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today in California on the Where's Shmee US Edition Tour. Today with some awesome roads to go and drive in my friend Chris's 2006 Ford GT. Now I make no secret that for quite a while I've been considering whether one of these should be joining the Shmeemobiles. Of course, with my growing Ford collection with the 2018 Ford GT, along with the Heritage Focus RS, and now the Shelby GT500, well today we're going to take this car out for a drive to think a little bit more about it. This particular car is a very nice specification, the white with the blue stripes, all four options in fact. We'll take a good look around it before hopping on board to go for a drive, something very, very different to the newer car that came just over a decade or so later. This is a 2006, but let's take it out for a drive and see what it's all about and whether one day it could become a Shmeemobile. It was all the way back in 2002 that Ford first presented the concept of the GT40. The GT40 concept, which was a tribute to the 1960s GT40s and the success they had at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, winning it 4 times in a row from 1966 to 69, while also being a 100th anniversary celebration for Ford. And you can see this nod here, the 100 inside the front left headlight. I've always thought that is a very cool detail about it. It was then shown in production form in 2004, called just the Ford GT, owing to some licensing complications with the GT40 name, and in total for the 2005 and 2006 model years they made 4,038 of them, a pretty rare car, but out of all of those only 101 were originally delivered in Europe, making it exceptionally rare. Now the new Ford GT, there'll be about 1,500 or so in total, so a third as many of these, but still this is a very rare and special thing. And this particular car, as I said, has all 4 of the different options. Originally the car was $139,000 US as the MSRP, and you could add just 4 different things to that in addition to your body colour. You could have the painted stripes, you could have the upgraded wheels, you could have painted brake calipers, and you could have the Macintosh sound system inside. That was all that you could spec, otherwise they were all the same. It is powered by a 5.4 litre supercharged V8 back here. This car also has the pulley upgrade, but in default form it would make 550 horsepower. That all goes through a 6-speed manual gearbox to the rear wheels. No traction control. This is a purist driver's car, and it's incredible to think actually how different this generation of GT, the first gen GT, is to the second gen, which now has the twin-turbo 3.5 litre EcoBoost V6. It has a 7-speed DCT gearbox. It is much more of an aero-based car as opposed to the brute horsepower that this thing carried. A very different proposition, despite having very similar design cues, all linking back to the GT40s. For example, this clean line that runs all the way around the nose, the styling of the headlights, the very, very low shape. While this isn't 40 inches, it's about 44 inches. You could call it the GT44 if you wanted. The new one sits at about 43 before you drop it down into race mode, and it goes down to 41. But it has these doors, which were again a tribute to the 1960s car, with that roof panel that opens up with them. It does look very cool, but it means you need a lot of space to actually be able to open these. If you're parked near a wall, it's not the easiest thing to be able to climb out of, and then when you're sitting in the car, as you pull them closed, you need to be careful that you don't slice off the top of your head with that thing. But inside here, carbon seats, the shifter in the centre, quite a small steering wheel, and a totally unique look inspired by the 1960s car. But this is a car that is about driving. It's about the raw experience. US cars have the bumper back here, the exhaust obviously grumbly V8, the diffuser down below. You can see the aero work that's going on sitting in and part of this. But let me take a step on board to get this started. Even, by the way, the details here on the seats, again reminiscent of the GT40s originally. Take a step inside, pop the key in, old school. It's amazing that this is really one of the last properly old school cars, I think we could say. Start button, it grumbles into life. We hear a little bit of that. This was a totally different thing to the new car. You just have to watch out here, like I said, that you don't slice off your head when you close the door. Nonetheless though, we're going to take it now for a drive, and I'll explain a little bit more about what drives me towards this car and why one day I would really quite like one to join the garage. Like I said, this is a very old school car. You still have a manual handbrake. The shifter is actually mounted slightly off to the left, which takes some getting used to. Then to put it into reverse is a complete whack to the left. It's a serious workout to actually do that. But let's pop it into first gear and head on out for a little drive, where one of the first things that you notice is that there is a very high bite point on the clutch. It's quite forgiving, which makes it easy to drive, and then you have that V8 grumble from the very, very torquey engine. Now, seating position-wise, it's very low to the ground. Like the GT40s and the new second generation Ford GT, you're sat right down. GT traditionally means Grand Tourer, but you also have very little luggage space in here. There's a tiny, tiny little compartment up front, nothing in the back, so not necessarily the best for a long-distance drive, despite the fact that it is fairly comfortable. It is a nice place to be seated, to be sat. Then you've got the engagement that comes from a manual shifter. This car is only 15 years or so old, but it feels so analog, which is such an enjoyable experience nowadays, something that many modern cars just don't quite match. You put your foot down on the throttle, feel the power coming through, driver and car connected together, just an all-round, instantly enjoyable experience, while being, I honestly think, a surprisingly dailyable thing. It's not that intimidating or hard work. You've got this very, very small steering wheel in your grip, which is also quite unusual, but not, like I said, the noisiest thing. And on roads like this, it's an absolute delight. Now, it is very, very wide. You're conscious of that. It's quite awkward to see out of the mirrors on either side, the way they sit right behind the A-pillars. In fact, the A-pillars themselves give you a gigantic blind spot when you're going around certain corners. To go over a cattle grid here, we need to brake down for that. There we go. Ride is plenty soft enough though, as I said, and then the torque pulling back away in second gear. Again, very, very powerful. Get used to that high bite point. I mean, this car and the Porsche Carrera GT, which came out a year or so before, are basically the last of an era. And you know, I don't own a manual mid-engined car. All of my manual cars have the engine up front. I did own a Cayman GT4, which of course 981 was manual, the 718 is as well. But there's something about this experience, it just feels a little bit old school, and when you come to a road like this, it's absolute perfection, just an enjoyable experience in every way. And I think a car like this is so iconic and even perhaps underappreciated because, well, it might not be the best and most powerful, fastest car to drive, but it's such an iconic look. It's a car that represents such a significant thing for Ford, their 100th anniversary, obviously the link with the new GT, which I love quite so much and have built up all of my memories with, also gives me an instinct that one of these one day would be right at home. And I recently drove also with Tyler from Ruby's Garage in his 60s Mustang, and I now have a desire to at one point add something of that ilk to the garage as well, and it becomes almost a bit of a Ford collection over in the UK. Just dropping down the gears into second. This is what driving is all about. A nice road like this, thankfully without any traffic up ahead of us. Just to push the car through the corners. Not the lightest thing, like I said, no electronic aids either. You're basically on your own in this for you to drive it. But a smile on the face, and if I did ever buy one, I don't think I would do crazy miles with it. It wouldn't be that kind of thing, but they would all be enjoyable miles, a bit like the Aston GT8. But I think every time you take this out, you're driving something really very, very cool, with a lot of quirky details about it as well. A lot of things that really stand out of why did they make it like that? But yeah, this is a lot of fun. There are a fair few things in common between the new second gen GT and this GT. For example, the fact that even though the engine is behind you, you're actually sitting with quite a lot of car up front. The bonnet or the hood actually extends down to the nose cone quite a long way away from you. You're also sat obviously left-hand drive only. The UK cars, whether this generation or the new ones, they're all left-hand drive, even in all right-hand drive markets. But it's such a different driving experience, and that's what I love. The two cars, when you see them side by side, have so many visual connections. Of course, gone are the sideways doors. In place of those, you have the dihedral doors on the new GT. But visually, the style of the headlights, the nose cones, the general shape is very reminiscent. Just, I think the new car has done an incredible job of taking this style, this look, but bringing in all of the aero features that it has, the floating buttresses, all the airflow for cooling that goes through the car, that has this pipework going in all sorts of different directions, whereas this was much more making a road car, not making a race car. You know, the new car was made to go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2016, which it did. It won the GT LM Pro category, which is exactly what it was introduced, the GTE LM class. That was what it was introduced to do. They went and did that with it. This was never intended to be a race car, although they did make the Ford GT GT1 race car, and what a thing that is. Not very many of those around at all, but it didn't take part in the same way. It doesn't have that standout motorsports history that the original car did and the new car did when it came back 50 years later. But obviously, for the 1960s was such a mega era. The arrival of the Mustang, the different Shelby cars, the GT500 in 1967, the GT40 and the race wins in 66, 67, 68 and 69, and in fact it was the same car that was victorious in 68 and 69, wearing the Golf livery, number 9 one year, number 6 the other. That actually meant that they went on to make the heritage version of this in the Golf colours, the blue and orange. They only made 346 of those, so less than 10% of the total run of these GTs. But on this road, this is a fantastic place to be driving this car today. Like I said, you never really need to pop it down to second gear. There's so much torque, down to first gear. There's so much torque leaving it in second as we meander down some of these lanes. Rev it out. This is just an awesome thing. Now, pricing, the original cars, 139 plus options, 152,000 MSRP was what they cost out here in the US. A little bit higher in the UK thanks to the import VAT and duties that were due on the cars when they were available at the time. But nowadays, you're looking at about $100,000 over to pick one up, a 15-year-old or so car. In the UK, for a good one, about £250,000. So that's around $320,000, $330,000. No, a little bit more than that, but still, I think it's a fantastic car. It's just more about what it represents and is to collect, perhaps, than as a car. Because there are a lot of things that you can buy for that money, a lot of very good cars that you can buy for that money. But sometimes the heart, I think, decides over the head. And in many ways, and I know for a lot of people out here in the US in particular, that's what it's all about when it comes to this generation, the GT. Being a Ford, being an American supercar, and everything that it represents. It's just cool. The car is so unusual. It's like the new GT, but taking a step back a decade and a half. Because when you're looking around it, the things like the dashboard and the way this is laid out with the speedometer over there towards the center, pointing towards the driver, are all reminiscent of the GT40. But then you have all of this lovely switchgear. Everything is completely unique in the way that it's styled and the way that it's done. You do get used to this very, very difficult shifter, as I said. And one of the funny things about it is trying to find second gear, because you expect second to be slightly to the left, but because it's already a little bit to the left, it's even further than you expect. And it just takes a little bit of familiarity, a little bit of driving to get accustomed to that. To open the doors, you've got your window switches and locks here. You pull this and push the door out, but that's where you have to watch this, the bit up top that's potentially going to slice your head off if you close this a little bit too aggressively. If you're a taller person, you really need to make sure that you duck and slouch down when you're pulling it closed, or that's going to hurt quite a lot. But it's those kind of unusual quirks, as Doug DeMuro would say, that I think make this car really stand out. And then you've got that sound and the pops that it makes. All American V8. A really, really, really awesome sound. Those proper grumbles. The Macintosh stereo system and the sub, as I was talking about. Back behind, you've got a view through the glass window towards the engine bay. But this car sits so low to the ground. Just gonna switch it off just for a moment. Things get a touch quieter, but you've got that very racing inspired dashboard view with all of the dials. When you take a step out, the other thing you've got to watch for is that you basically stand up almost like you're in a convertible, because otherwise you're going to be banging on there as well. But then you look at it from the outside, and I apologise, by the way, that it's so dirty. We did actually take the car out for a drive yesterday to come and make a video with it, but unfortunately the heavens decided to open. It was completely atrocious weather, sideways rain, wind, everything, so that was completely a no-go. They don't, well, the cars often, many of them have a different set of tyres to the original ones that works slightly better. One of the things that the car was famed for not being the best with to start, but I've really enjoyed driving that. I've driven one once before, but quite a few years back out in Dubai. And I tell you what, it really does make me think. Now, some more unusual things. If you want to open the fuel filler cap, you actually pop the key in here, turn that, pull this, and that's how you open the fuel filler cap. it's just unusual. If you want to open up the front storage area, it's exactly the same over on the other side. You pop the key in on this side, pull the lever, that pops open, and I'll do it actually very quickly. But like I said, just a tiny, tiny amount of space that you have in there. With both pulled at the same time, you can open this up where you have this very small space. And when you think about the shape of it, due to the cooling that comes through the front, you're not going to be fitting a whole lot down there. So not the best from that point of view. Just make sure that's closed back down into place, but obviously cooling, keeping the engine, keeping everything as cool as possible running with this amount of power in this car. And I just think it looks awesome as well. I would love one day to see one of these with my 2018 Ford GT in the Shmeemobile. So who knows, maybe if the right car comes up at the right price at the right time, that could be something that happens. For today though, I have really enjoyed getting back behind the wheel of this car. Thank you very much for watching as well, guys. I'd love to know your thoughts, whether you think maybe one day one of these should join the garage. For now though, that is all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!